and welcome to Growing for Good with Funding for Good. It's been a while since we recorded a couple of vlogs to post on the YouTube page and share with you guys, but we are back in the mood and ready to film and record and talk a little bit about some questions we've been receiving lately. And it is the first day of summer on my porch in North Carolina, and it is cool this morning and kind of breezy. So I'm enjoying these last few days of coolness before summer really kicks in here in North Carolina. And I am going to talk to you today about a question that was asked. We just started a group on Facebook because I realized a lot of people weren't seeing our posts on the Facebook page. And one of the questions that came in that someone would like for us to answer is, perhaps you could discuss how to approach foundations that do not offer specific funding guides or ones that indicate foundation only makes contributions to pre-selected charitable organizations and does not accept unsolicited proposals for funds. That is a great question, and we get that a lot. We teach that when we teach our 2-day grant writing and research class, and we do it during the research section because a lot of foundations do have on their 990s when you're doing research. And for those of you that don't know, a 990 is the tax form that nonprofits have to file, and a 990 PF is the form that private foundations file. A lot of them have a box on page 10 that is marked that says, we do not accept unsolicited proposals, but basically it's saying they're only going to fund certain people. Well, what I would tell you is two things. One, when I'm doing research and I see they only fund certain organizations, I go back and look at their 990s for several years in a row. And I say, okay, how many organizations did they support? Were they all the same organizations? And if those two answers are yes, you know, majority, 75% of the ones that they supported were the same from year to year, then they probably aren't going to fund any other organizations. For those, I typically don't add them to my list to call because it seems like they already know who they want to support. For the ones that say they don't accept unsolicited proposals, that's a little bit different. A lot of foundations do not have an online grant application process that you can just go on and apply to. And that is an unsolicited grant proposal. They're not asking you to, they're not reaching out to you and saying, hey, would you apply? They're not doing anything. They just have a standard online process, and anybody that feels they qualify can go on and apply. Now, a lot of times those will have eligibility quizzes that you can take. If you don't pass the eligibility quiz, that kicks you out, which for the organization, the foundation, is helpful because that's their way of weeding people out that probably really don't qualify and their board wouldn't support anyway. And I always tell people it's sort of like a letter of inquiry process. If you go through that and then the foundation tells you, we don't really feel like that's a good match, or our board probably wouldn't support that type of thing, or we've never supported that type of thing in the past, please come back to us when you have a different proposal or a different project. Take that to heart. Be appreciative that they were able to tell you that because it saved you the time of having to put an entire application together, and it saves their board the time of looking through something that the program officer or whoever is that gatekeeper that reviews those letters of inquiry knows they're not going to support anyway. So I always appreciate that. It saves a ton of time. Now, if you make it through the quiz process, if they have that online, then they feel like, okay, they answered all the questions correctly, they might qualify. Does not mean you're going to get funded. It just means there is a possibility that you would qualify, and then they're going to go ahead and let you apply online. A lot of foundations don't want to go through all that trouble, especially small foundations. They don't want to have hundreds of applications coming in when they know they only have $100,000 to give out or $25,000 to give out. You know, every foundation has a different amount that they're typically giving out from year to year. Well, in that situation, the first step a lot of the time is either to email or call someone at the foundation and say, this is who I am, this is the program we have, and this is why we feel like it might be a good fit for your funding priorities. So even though they don't accept unsolicited proposals, a lot of times it is still perfectly acceptable to call the foundation and have a conversation once you've done your research to make sure you're a good fit, to figure out, can we take the next step? Would you consider allowing us to apply? Will you send us the proposal? I will tell you, in the area where I live, we have a lot of family foundations and small foundations that is what you do. You go online and you look and it says, we only fund pre-selected organizations, or we don't accept unsolicited proposals. However, being in this area for a long time and having written lots and lots of grants, I know that they don't have an online process, but you do have a phone number to call. And if you call and talk to that program officer, then they will tell you, let me take this to the board, or send me a letter of inquiry, or send me this information, and I'll tell you if it sounds like something our board is interested in supporting, or the board will tell me, and then I'll get back to you. And if so, then I will provide you with the application information. You can move forward from there. So don't just automatically assume every time you see that when you're doing research, when you see the phrases only fund pre-selected organizations or don't accept unsolicited proposals, that you're not going to qualify. Because a lot of times you might, but if you don't do your due diligence on the front end, you don't do all the research you need to do to find out, are you a good fit? And if so, why? What do they want to fund? And what are you doing that is a good fit for that without making something up? And how much is their general giving, and does that fit into what we need? You know, what are their ranges? If you're not doing all that due diligence first and you're just calling them, that's going to be frustrating for them, and it's a waste of your time, because you might be able to answer your own question and realize you're not a good fit before you ever pick up the phone. So, thank you, Kate, for the question. I hope that was helpful for some people. We are actually in the process. We had a client who asked us to teach a research webinar for them 2 weeks ago, and their constituency wants a more advanced research webinar. So we're doing one called Beyond the Basics, and we're going to do an advanced grant research webinar in the near future. So keep an eye out for that if this is an area that you need more work in and you've already done the basics. So I hope you have a great week. Join us next week for another vlog. We are going to start recording a little more often again, so I hope that you're enjoying them. Please leave comments in the section or email us at info@fundingforgood.org with any future topics you'd like us to cover. And welcome to summer. Hope you have a great week.